Okay, let's bring this meeting to order. Um, how about start with a roll call? Start with you, Dwight.
White Ranowitz, Mark Blackmore, Joseph Adelota,
David Morse.
Aaron Barbo, Joe Palula, John Day.
Okay. So I guess we'll designate Dwight and John today. Next up is the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very important. It is the first day of spring, which would make our former champion Jeffrey Moffett very happy. Me also. Days start getting longer. Thank you all for being here. That's about it for my comments. Any citizen comments? Seeing none, we've received the minutes. We have minutes from the March 6th meeting. Ready?
Make a motion to accept the minutes of the March 6th meeting as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Any abstained? Okay, so now we go to about 2 seconds to be fine. The few minutes before we can start the continuation of the public hearing. You know that Dan is not attending tonight, so I don't believe we have a report from him, so we'll have to do that next time. There's not much that we can do before the 7:45, so
We're back on the again.
Well, maybe I could.
Far from adjourned.
go ahead.
I can feel it.
Give it.
Kind of the last call for you to give me your questions for the town attorney. I did get some by email, but if you have any more, please send them to me by, say, Monday. And did everybody get their housing regulations updates? We haven't really had a good discussion about that, but if you could read them and then we could talk about them at the next meeting. We talk about
The item to number 12 that we could move up.
I haven't received any. I stopped in the town hall today and was out of the office and Casey was gone. So there was, we just stop in and try to stop in on Thursdays to check out to see, make sure I'm not missing anything. And so I don't know if any, haven't received anything about any bills. The CEO report, we're not gonna have, so. And I don't know of any new business. And the old business is the public hearing continuation.
Item 9, budget review. Any increases for the sheriff?
Yeah. Yeah, we're all gonna get 100% raise.
Yeah, on 0?
Yeah.
Excellent.
And
Little Jeff Gordon humor.
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Didn't see Bill.
no, but I guess you
Oh, I didn't.
part of my call.
Oh. Just notices. Yeah. use 30, we have 37% of our budget left, I'm not. You know, some of those fees go out and we get feedback, notices and stuff, so I,
I always thought that was strange that you get a budgeted amount, but you never know how many applications that you'll have because everyone needs to have a decision notice. If you have a public hearing, you need 2 more notices. If you do any text amendments, you have to do notices. So there's never any way to know in advance.
so it's just, yes.
For any of those notices that are part of an application, you do take in a fee that's supposed to cover that. I guess we have a few extra minutes. If you're going to that event next, well, Saturday, we have the online Connecticut Bar Association event. You should have gotten a link by email.
Yeah.
And then next Thursday, there's the Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning Agencies event.
Yes, I was planning on going to that. And anybody else going down to that?
I'm going,
Joseph is going. There's, let you get some credits for, public housing.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's. We need to get some of our hours in.
When is that gonna win?
I got mine yesterday.
I got my thing in the mail. Big packet.
I got my packet in the mail, but I haven't got,
Oh, I don't know.
I haven't gotten a link to the webinar yet. You
I
have?
can email you the lady who can email you the link, but all the links are work to each, specific to each person.
All right, I got an email from this morning that was sort of buried. I'll look and see if you got an email and just read it.
Can't think of her
Oh,
last
I
name.
did, I got it yesterday.
What's
Shirley Perrin.
Yeah.
Yep. So you get a.
Oh, there it is.
Shirley
Okay.
Perrin.
I didn't get it. All right.
Still got a good chunk of time.
And there's, guess there was a, I got an email from Dan. Yesterday, I must have missed it. But, I guess they've taken a complaint about dog training at a child road property. That you'll need to reach out, to Rich Roberts about that. Some kind of, Trips and Hound Club. SCHUTZENHUND.
You do some kind of dog training or something.
Yeah, he's reaching out to the organization. So I don't know, he's gonna.
Is everyone aware of the meeting and public hearing coming up on April 1st? The special town meeting and public hearing?
You mentioned last night, there's a few dates. Few meetings, or
Yeah, so there's finance budget stuff, but this is a public hearing and a town meeting about specific land
land.
and transfer funding for an animal feeder fund and the exhaust for the fire stations. On April 1st, and then April 8th is the budget. The Board of Finance public hearing about the budget where they'll do the presentations and people can ask questions and say comments. And then the following Tuesday is the Board of Finance meeting where they set the budget.
Lots of things going on.
Signed up for that thing Thursday yet, Jim? I haven't either.
I have, that's an agricultural.
Yeah.
Didn't get that one.
There's a link that, Celia sent, I believe.
Do you want me to resend it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't get the. Didn't get an email today on the link for Saturdays, but I got a whole bunch of bounced, that I had bounced, my inbox was full, so that may have been one of those.
So when that, do we bring in our receipt to get reimbursed for that?
For Saturdays,
Yeah, because it was, I think we get reimbursed for that.
I think so, they said, talk to Dan on that. Good, Dan.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah, so I printed out my receipt. Is
Well, it
everybody,
would be,
is
because
everybody
Dan is
gonna be
here.
attending that? Saturday? You are, no?
You're talking about the online thing or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Online.
Yeah.
does anyone else need the email for the thing next Thursday?
Okay, we got 2 minutes.
So the email that I have has an attachment, but when I check when it's forwarding, it doesn't look like the attachment is attached. If you don't get the attachment, send me an email tomorrow and I'll forward it to you from work. Maybe that works better somehow that way. Don't see why it wouldn't work from my phone. but-
The members of the CSPDA.
That's why you can post them to work. They wouldn't send them to you to work. Remember.
We can send in one form of just.
Looks like it's supposed to come through the June.
I think it's time, Mr. Chairman.
7:45, good. Okay, now we can open our, reopen the public hearing continuation, application number 663-01-25, 1991 Route 198, A&M Villa.
Is this the correct plan that I'm showing up here? Dated, January 22nd?
No, we have revised plans dated March 13th.
Once you get it out.
Pretty sure if they're not on the website, Tracy developed this.
Okay, I see the storm water report dated March 13th.
You named it something different? Is it the full map?
I'm not sure of the exact file name, sorry.
Yeah, that's.
Yep, there we go. Perfect. All right, well, again, for the record, my name is Daniel Blanchett. I'm a licensed civil engineer and surveyor. I work with J&D Civil Engineers out of Thompson. I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Ken Pelk, to seek your approval this evening for a 5-lot subdivision. The site is located on the east side of Route 198, very close to the Massachusetts border. Here's again the site right here shown on the cover sheet. We'll kind of flip through these real quick. The boundary survey sheet, pretty self-explanatory. I'll go to the site plan here, 3. At the previous meeting, I had said that we had approval from the Wetland Commission, the Conservation Commission, the Fire Marshal, and DOT. At the previous meeting, we had not addressed the comments by design professionals. We did not have a final approval letter from the health department. We now have those. I have a letter, which again should all be in the record somewhere. Letter dated March 17th from NDDH that states everything is in compliance with the regulations. I have an email from Daniel Jameson, Design Professionals, March 14th, saying we have no further comments. We have addressed all of our comments to date. I have one other final letter from Daniel Jameson. He had requested a maintenance easement for the infiltration basin that he asked us to design. I sent him another letter, and I have a letter from Daniel Jameson, March 19th, saying, yes, this easement area would be acceptable. It's not officially finalized yet, but again, I have an idea what Design Professionals is looking for, and I'm hoping as a condition of approval, we can include that in any final MyLars that we record. But we do have, I had sketched on a maintenance easement for the infiltration basin.
Do you have those letters? Yeah.
I have a letter from the health department in the email from design professional.
You do have that from the recent, okay. The only one I see is the one.
I have extra copies, yeah. Here's the one about the maintenance. This is the latest one, just about the maintenance agreement.
This one.
I have this one.
You have that one, okay.
Oh, fine.
Thank you.
So you didn't get the septic system cleared away?
Exactly, yeah. The previous, one of the lots, they had ledge and we had to dig some more test pits, basically. But we found some suitable test pits, and so NDDH said that lot is also suitable.
So do you have the written text of the drainage easement, or is that what you're proposing to submit? If there is a condition?
Just to include it on the map. I kind of sketched it out real quick. Again, this was just a couple days ago. I sketched it out. I sent it to Design Professionals. He said, yes, this is satisfactory. So that'll have to be included on any final MyLars.
Of where it exists, gonna be added to the other? easement?
Yes,
The maintenance agreement for the driveway?
exactly. The maintenance agreement for the driveway will be extended to include the swale here and the infiltration basin.
Is there any plan to mark that in the field so that the homeowner who lives right there doesn't continue to use it and encroach upon it? Like mow it and put their play yard in it or whatever?
I had not intended on marking it out. If the commission, feels that that's warranted, we would certainly consider that. Again, I think the maintenance agreement, the big issue with Design Professionals is they wouldn't want the homeowner to fill it in, basically.
So I thought if
And
it's
so-
marked in the field.
Sure. Absolutely.
That's a good idea.
Something
That's a great idea.
that they would then know, so in the future, they're not continuing to move their stuff onto it, and then all of a sudden, there's a drainage problem because it's filled in with whatever.
Absolutely. No, that's a great idea.
And I had a question, what is the qualifying impervious areas? I haven't seen those yellow shaded areas before.
Yeah, that's something very new as part of the latest stormwater manual.
That's probably.
It's something that's very new, just included on the very latest 2023 stormwater design manual. So basically the idea is any water coming off an impervious surface, a roof, a driveway is directed to a qualifying pervious area. And at that point, you can kind of subtract it from the drainage calculations. And I'm sure Janet included some maps on the drainage report, but basically it's areas of lawn.
Show that, if you'd like.
Sure, yeah, it's areas of lawn where runoff will go from the houses or the driveways to the lawn. Something very new.
New in what, how you are
The
allowed to,
stormwater quality manual, yeah, the main guidance document by DEP.
they've included lawn area now as a absorbent.
Yes, they have a new thing called qualified pervious areas. Yeah, they have a new chapter. And again, yeah, thank you, Delia. So that's shown, I believe, in yellow are the areas, the qualified impervious areas.
Share. So it might be a little hard to see, but it's the yellow areas that we're talking about.
Exactly, yes, the yellow areas that are just downhill of the houses and the roads.
So are these designed to, so all that water that's running from the driveway and
No, I heard.
from the driveways and then the road that goes in, is this essentially to try and stop that from going like, let's say, off of that parcel? That's just, I see some drawing with that, the 2A lot, that it looks like some of the water could go down and go in there, it slopes down in that way. Is the idea that this will take care of that water to come off another?
Exactly, yeah, it's an area of lawn that's gonna slow runoff as runoff is coming down. The grass slows the water velocity and helps it infiltrate into the ground.
But you're not treating it any way other than it's just lawn.
Yeah. Yep.
Is the new manual accounting for any increased rainfall observed over the past 5 years or 10 years? Or gutters are size much larger now for houses than they used to be.
So, yeah, NOAA publishes rainfall data, and with global warming, climate change, whatever, we're getting a lot more rainfall, and those numbers are steadily increasing. The amount of rain that we get for a 100-year storm has gone from 7.8 inches to 8.5 inches, something like that. So yeah, the rainfalls are increasing.
And these stormwater manual updates.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just a clarification question, on those yellow areas, they don't have to be lawn, can they just be anything that's non-impervious?
I think they have to be lawn. Yeah, I think they have to be lawn. I don't think that like pea stone or.
So, I mean, but if they let it grow up to woods or something, that still count?
Yeah, that would still be, yeah, it would still
It
have
just doesn't-
vegetation
it
and
has to
be
be-
pervious.
Pervious.
Yeah. Yeah, it has to be vegetated and pervious.
Can you clarify again what you did to allow the NPH to move the project?
Absolutely, absolutely. So was it 4 or 5 Ken, that had the ledge? It was lot 5, yeah, so lot 5, which is the biggest lot here. They found some ledge in the first couple test pits, so we did more test pits downhill. That again were better, suitable for septic.
So you had a sampling there for the first time,
A sampling error, I'm not familiar with that term.
right? You didn't have a good spot. So you went and found the spot.
Yeah, exactly. The septic system will move downhill a little bit where there's less ledge.
Yeah, one of my big questions was the operation and maintenance of that detention basin. And if our consultant did check the calculations in sizing that detention basin.
Yes, he did. Yep, he said it was acceptable.
Okay,
That was in his letter dated March 17th.
Yeah.
14th.
and
14th.
another contingent to approval. We need to somehow, I'd like to propose that the E&S bond that's provided be sufficient, have sufficient funds for the inspection of that detention basin, as well as development of as-built drawings for it. So normally, we ran into this on a previous job. And all they did was a bond for silt fence and feeding, blah, blah, blah. But I'd like to see that bond include inspection of that basin and as built for it.
So I have a question, when you say inspection, you mean once after it's built? You don't mean like,
Either
Multiple
during
times.
or after, you know, before it's accepted, certainly.
I think that's a good idea, given what we faced not that long ago.
Right.
And maybe you can word it more appropriately to have a CEO after the it is,
the way the bond usually works is. Say they've done the work, they let the commission or the staff know,
Yeah.
they're requesting their bond to be released. In order to have it released, it needs to be inspected. So design professionals would go out to inspect it. And hopefully they find that it is in compliance with the plan and there's no, say, erosion problems or whatever. And then they would let the commission know, and then you vote on releasing the bond.
well, part of the issue is there was a design that was approved by the commission, and then I guess there was a change during construction, and the modified plan was the one that was reviewed by staff, not the original plan. So all I'm trying to do is make sure that we approve, this gets approved as drawn, then the final design gets compared to the approved against the Mylar, not any modified drawings that come up. So I think that's maybe what Joe is trying
Yeah,
to make
that's
sure we get
exactly,
the bond to cover that inspection. So is it sufficient to say what Joe said, that to ensure that the bond covers the inspection post construction?
Yeah, but it could be, the bond amount could be revised and. I guess you'd have, I'm not qualified to tell you if it's enough, but you could have it go back to design professionals and they could tell you if it's enough.
So. Do we need that done before we approve this, or can we approve that on the condition that bond covers?
I think you could make the condition contingent upon a revised ENS bond amount according to the input from the design professional. Because you already have a bond and that will just be a revised amount, when it's new information.
Does the applicant kind of understand what we're talking about, or Daniel, you covering
The bond.
the bond, this retention basin that we're talking about, we just want to make sure that after all the construction is completed and the retention bond is considered done, that we have a design professional expert come out and compare the approved plan to the finished basin. And I'm not sure that the current erosion and soil control bond, the way it was described, may not cover that subsequent or final inspection. And that's all we're talking about, to make sure that.
Yeah, I think the title of the bond should be more than just erosion and sediment control. It should also be stormwater management.
Where is the bond amount? I don't know that I have that. Cameron might have it, but he's not here tonight.
Did Dan already write one up?
Dan doesn't write one. The engineer writes it and then submits it.
Oh,
Dan's not an engineer.
right.
Did you submit it in the past? It would probably be on our previous meeting for the website.
Yes, I'm looking for it. I probably have it in here somewhere. It's just a big file. Yeah, I'm sure Janet submitted it. Okay, here's a letter from design professional saying bond estimate appears appropriate. See if I can find the actual dollar amount for you.
Well, the dollar amount and what it covers. That's, we just want to make sure.
We'll go on to the last meeting.
What was the date on that?
So this was dated February 12th.
Yeah, so it was
Design professional
before,
says-
it was before the detention basin was added.
Yes, sir. Yep, absolutely.
And again, that's a good reason to stake it out too. So they don't put a playscape inside of it.
Right, seen that sort of thing happen, and then later on, 13 years from now, the people who live there might be like, but that's my yard. That's where my kids play. And so then they'll be surprised if it has to be ripped up and, you know, repaired
Right.
somehow. And they'll think, but that's my, it's out of my yard. When it may look like it's out of their yard, but it's not really their yard.
I'm sorry, I can't find the dollar amount for that bond.
These are all the documents that were at the February meeting. You know, for what we went again. Maybe you're. Maybe it's in your original application. I don't have it, what you submitted in the beginning.
Yeah, it was probably included with the original submission. Which would have been, if it's March, April. Would have been January, right? I think when we first submitted for the January meeting, then we accepted it and scheduled a public hearing for February, and now we're in March. All right, but it would have been in either late December or early January.
Here it is.
Is that the description of what the bond?
It breaks it down, it shows the anti-tracking pad for 1,500, the erosion control restoration and seeding for 22,625.60. The perimeter silt fence or silt sock, 42.30. And then the 15% contingency of, if I'm reading the right row, it's 4,253.34. For a total of $32,608.94.
So as you were reading that, and if you had to identify how to confirm that the retention basin is inspected and meets as built, that the as built meets the approved drawing,
That doesn't include an inspection
it does not.
money.
Okay. So that, I think that's what we're talking about as part of the conditions of approval to include an inspection period. At least the retention
Yeah.
base.
Haven't come up with a price for inspection and development of as-built drawings.
Well, they don't have to do the as-built.
Somebody does.
Well, I think these are supposed to be, oh, that's right.
As built is after it's
After,
done,
who does that,
built,
and who does that?
whoever you require, I guess you could require, they do it, and then they submit it, and then design professionals could review it with an inspection.
What has been the practice in town?
Well,
The
when you have an
as-built
as-built, you have the applicant submit it.
Okay.
The applicant usually is, that's the as-built.
Seems to make sense.
So then it's just inspection and reviewing the as-built drawings provided by the applicant.
So the money you want added to the estimate would be the cost of reviewing the as-built and the inspection, because
Yes,
you don't include the cost of doing that, like creating the as-built, that would just be a condition of the approval that they would have to provide.
correct.
On the, what's the 15% contingency?
If the cost of those things go up by the time that this happens,
Then basically, if they don't do it, what it costs the town to have somebody going.
that too. Or
I wasn't sure if that was just the buffer, which would be, maybe covering the sub-inspection.
maybe,
Or would that have to be covering the inspection and doing it right? That it didn't meet the as-built,
Right.
but it had been
Meet the as-built, and somebody has to go and do it, then I have to approve that amount, as well as the inspection. Okay.
So that stormwater infiltration basin on the back of lot 4, that,
That's what you want, what they're talking
Yeah.
about the as-built for.
yes, but, is that gonna be? That's gonna be part of that lot. There. Is that gonna be on the Mylar that's there and that whose responsibility it is to maintain that?
I have a different set of the plans that can show you that shows that he's gonna have an area that's the easement around that. And that's, he said the wording on that is gonna be added to the easement that's about the common driveway. And that document details responsibility for maintenance. Have I explained that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, there it is. Okay, I see that.
So this is the document that we have about the declaration of easement for the driveway and the utilities. So the language about the drainage easement is gonna be added to that. But there is a sheet of the plans that shows you what it looks like on the site.
This one.
Right, sheet 2. Yeah, so right now, sheet 2 again shows the 60-foot wide driveway maintenance agreement. And then, again, as a condition of approval, hopefully we can extend that to include the swale and the basin. So we'll include that in that maintenance agreement, and we can mark it out in the field as well.
So that's not in the full set of plans that was dated March 13th.
No, we didn't get that comment till very, very
So I
recently.
have a separate file here that shows it. Just remember which one it is.
Yeah, that comment didn't come in until March 18th, I think. After they sent us the review letter, they said you've addressed everything, and then they had one follow-up comment about that.
I've seen it, I just don't know what it's called.
Is there only one retention or detention basin?
Yes.
Okay, so we talk about the retention basin.
You're covered.
That's enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, there we go. That's it. That area in blue would be the area we'll add to the maintenance agreement. Thank you.
That would be added to the conservation easement agreement?
The maintenance agreement.
Maintenance agreement,
It's not part of the conservation land, it's part of the maintenance.
Driveway.
plan.
easement for driveway and utility.
Right,
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, all right.
It'll be protected, and there'll be language recorded on the land records to describe protecting it, maintaining.
I'm suggesting that if you approve it, that you have a condition that you, that the, at least the corners of it be marked with some sort of a boundary, not a boundary, but some sort of a marker. So the property owner who lives there is aware of where the space is.
Okay, so can you read back that, make sure we have the ENS bond that we want? And then how we want that worded for the approval? Can you just read back?
The ENS bond
But they're talking about adding the,
estimate should be revised to include an amount to cover the cost of reviewing as-built drawings and an inspection of the drainage easement.
is that? Everybody happy with that?
Julie, what kind of marker did you go?
I'm not sure how many different markers you are aware of that might work for this.
We think like a metal fence post, a T-post or something like that. It's, the property corners that we set, they're pretty flush in the ground. They get buried by weeds pretty quickly, so I think some kind of a metal fence post is gonna last 50 years. It would be very visible. Exactly.
Something,
3-4 foot fence post, exactly, yeah.
Should have some kind of placard notice on it that this is an easement area or.
I might be able to find one. I know like for conservation
Yeah.
easements, we have little discs that we'll put on trees. I don't have one that says maintenance agreement. Maybe I could get one made, I'm not sure.
Well, let's
As long
just
as
ask them,
Yeah.
kind of a standard thing.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of, sorry.
Okay, so if we have all the other approvals on the DTH, you're.
Yeah, yep.
I just want to make sure we get all our ducks in a row here.
We have health department, we have wetlands, we've heard from the design professionals,
And the fire marshal.
fire marshal.
Yeah, DOT.
So,
If you're, don't need any other information, you can conclude the hearing if you're ready for that.
Just want to ask if you were, we might have interrupted you during your presentation. If you have more you wanted to.
No,
okay, anybody else have anything else before we go out of the, go out of the public hearing?
I think you have to.
Huh?
No, we don't approve any.
No, you have to close the public hearing. Go on that part of the agenda and then you vote on it.
Usually you're telling us.
So were you talking about one marker or markers all around town?
whatever the commission feels appropriate, I'd be happy to do.
I mean, I think it makes sense to go around.
Every
like
50
3
feet or
four of them
something.
Well, I think we should mark corners. I mean, you don't want to have
Identify
it.
the corners.
Corners be the yard too.
No, but. I mean, sticking one marker in the back
You
is.
just want them to know where it is.
So if we think if we do the corners.
Yeah.
It'll be in the deed.
So all the corners.
Yeah.
All the way around, but it doesn't have to be along the,
Not along the driveway, right, just along the base.
Yep.
Yeah.
if you, for instance, if you were to put a fence up, it might be hard to get in there to do the maintenance. Because it's not that wide of an area.
Yeah.
But if you put something along the corners and maybe if you wanted to along the long side or something, a couple more. Then it should be pretty visible and then no one should be accidentally moving their camper over there. or playground, pool, whatever.
Camper. Okay. So do we have a motion to go out of the close the public hearing? So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? So moved.
Who is motion second? Motion
Over there somewhere.
second. I should have known.
The agenda doesn't have this in to vote on it, so we need to have a motion to add this to new business, old business, to vote on the K and M Villa. Application number 663-01-25199. I gotta say all this, so it's in the motion. 1991 Route 198 K and M Villa State State. So move, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So now it's- Don't think we have any new business. We go to old business, which is the approval of the villa, K&M Villa. Application number 663-1-25. We have a motion to approve.
I move that we approve this, with the conditions that we stated was, checking to raise the ENS bond
And then
and
inspection.
post marking out the
Yeah,
easement area.
and adding that to the final Mylars.
Right.
Yes.
And the language of the drainage easement to the other easement about the driveway and the utilities.
So those are like 3, 4 conditions.
Got all that in?
Hold on, I will read it back to you in a second. One more word.
Do we need to make it if they submit as-bills?
That's. So,
Yeah.
That's, we'll see. If it's in-
Mark, would you like to hear your motion?
Yes, please.
Mark Blackmore made a motion to approve application contingent that the bond would have to be adjusted to include inspection of the stormwater infiltration basin and review of as-built drawings provided by the applicant. And marking of the maintenance marking the maintenance corners of the areas outlined are marking the corners of the areas outlined in the maintenance easement, sorry, you're
Maybe
taking
drainage.
in the drainage easement, not maintenance easement,
No,
drainage. Easement and adding language and area of drainage easements to the final milers. Or is that
To the-
maintenance? easement? We have a
the
maintenance and a
common
drainage
driveway and utilities easement. The language that's added to the other easement,
of the
make
maintenance.
common driveway and utilities
Shoot.
maintenance agreement easement.
Or so you're adding drainage to the common driveway and maintenance.
Yeah, the language of where it is, has to go in there, and then who maintains it and that sort of stuff.
Adding language. For drainage. To the.
And then the area of the drainage easement is added to the miles.
And area of drainage easement to final. milers.
I'll keep the drawing.
Okay, you got all square with that?
And you have the as-built requirement,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
you did say that.
review of it, yeah.
and you have the posts that mark the.
Yep.
Was there a second on that one?
Second.
Okay. And any more discussion on this? None, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We're done. Good to go.
Thank you for your time, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Forward to see that.
I'll work.
Yeah. Good presentation, Daniel.
Thank you, sir.
All the information was.
Janet did 90% of it. He's on vacation all the time, so I have to come to the meetings.
You do the current job.
Yeah, you said you have the recent responses from design professionals who came, we didn't have it. As long as you have,
Came in maybe yesterday or today,
okay,
I got it today.
you have it.
Yes, yeah.
Right, if you got, how will we talk about the housing guidelines? This is a regular meeting, you could add this to the agenda. Very special for regular.
Well, let's, add the housing regulation updates to the, agenda. Do we have a motion? So move. Second?
Second.
Favor? Opposed? Okay, so now we discuss it.
I'm gonna pull up the document for you. So I'm working on having a workshop on this for all the region, for the planning and zoning commission, ZBA and wetlands. But it probably won't be until September. So we haven't finished planning it out. I'm inviting other people to attend as well. But if you've read it, if you want to share any questions or comments that you have about it,
I thought it had a good summary of a lot of what's taking place. I was trying to see how some of this might apply to the stock. I guess, in looking at this, plus the affordable housing guide that you had put together a while back. I guess I'm a little more comfortable with the fact that apartments are workable in Woodstock. Since we currently have quite a number of them. And despite the fact that we don't have city water or city sewer, these number of apartments are around and have been in place for a long time. Without problems that I've heard of. So I think, given the fact that housing is a hot topic, having Woodstock be more open to about multifamily or at least apartments, condos, multi-unit type dwelling units. I'm not sure if affordability works into this unless it's from a developer who's seeking that HUD funds or state funds to subsidize the affordable housing.
It may
which
not,
some of these-
it may not qualify as the formal affordable housing through that the state looks for.
Yeah,
That's that table that I
right,
had in your
Right.
affordable housing plan, but it could be more achievable or attainable, because with more options, you'll have more range of price.
and I think that's a great objective, but nobody, well, the state level doesn't seem to recognize the term attainable. But I think that's a very valid point to try and make. Unless we can convince more people to put that as another category. I think the boxes will just be checked that we don't have affordable housing because it's not deed restricted or it's not government housing.
Plus, we don't have the support systems for, really, for affordable housing.
We don't have what,
We don't have the support systems we need,
Oh,
are needed for
correct.
affordable housing. We don't have, we don't have public transportation. We don't have a center or a place where there's jobs are located all in one place. So it's just really not, a lot of that stuff just, when we fill out the form, we can send it in, but it doesn't, a lot of it doesn't really apply. to us.
but that's still
But the
puts
attainable
Woodstock,
housing is certainly something that we can do.
Woodstock in trouble with the fact that the state looks at all towns and they check off their tables and say, Woodstock is only 0.2% of our goal, 2% versus 5%. And with the push for fair share type housing taking place in Hartford, can imagine a bigger push to push housing outside of the central part of the state into making it a requirement for town. So that all I'm saying is, I think the way you defined attainable housing and in that affordable housing plan, Woodstock has a lot of dwelling units that fall within a category of affordable, except for the fact that they're not deed restricted or they're not government housing. But they're the rental cost falls within the affordable housing category.
It may do that, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the cost of renting an apartment has gone up a lot. It can be
True.
quite high.
The number of the way it's rated is still adjusted based on income.
In that plan, are there any towns that are taking the lead on building housing themselves? I mean, either senior housing or
There's some.
does the town do senior housing or does somebody else?
I'm not sure starts got built. It's been here long before I came to work here, so I'm not sure about the history of it. I think in some towns they probably did. I just don't know. It's not something I've looked into yet. It's a good question though. Some towns have housing authorities, so I think maybe the housing authority themselves might have gotten a grant to do it.
But we don't have a housing authority.
I think Woodstock contracts with the Putnam Housing Authority to manage your whatever you have. But when I reached out to them, they had no plans to do any more. And I think they also serve as the managing arm of the housing authority for other towns. I don't know how many other towns. But when I asked them about what's the demand in the area and do they have plans to increase their units? They had no plans to do that, which is kind of
This is the Putnam office you're talking about.
right.
But not much public housing, I mean, housing affordable or affordable housing.
They have a lot more than we do.
I mean, let's not say
I just-
Right, but I think they made, there's only a few towns in our area that meet the 10% threshold. And they did, I think, under the previous census. I'm not sure if it does now, but it's pretty up there. The funny thing is when that table, which if you had a few, I could take a few minutes to go bring up the table from the affordable housing plan. Cause there's the data is in there and it's all based on your housing units as of the last census. So if it takes 10 years between censuses, that total amount doesn't change. But how many units you have could change. So your percentage, it might look different throughout the 10 years. And then all of a sudden, you know, the census happens and boom, your number goes, your housing numbers go up. And then your percentage can change, which seems a little bit strange that it's such a delay in the update. But, and I could go and get that other document if you want, and I could show it, but there's like 4 different categories of what counts for affordable housing, and one of them is deed restricted, one of them is mortgages, and you have no control over who gets one of these mortgages. It's not every mortgage doesn't count. It's only certain mortgages that people who are eligible for can get those types of mortgages, and then they count towards your percentage. But we have no way of increasing them. We have no way of helping someone in your town get that kind of mortgage, because I've reached out to the Department of Housing to ask them. And I said, well, if we don't have any way, like we don't have the money to build to build more senior housing at the moment. We don't have any way of doing a lot of deed restricted, because if our subdivisions are coming in at 1, 2, and 3 lots, how would you give a bonus? Because it's gonna cost more if they're gonna sell one of the lots and one of the houses for a lot less. They're not gonna recoup their investment. So it's just not, that's why it's not happening here. In the towns where you have subdivisions of 100 lots or whatever, and I'm not even sure where those would be happening in this economy, but if you had them, then you have a 3% or 10% bonus or whatever. That would make sense, because you have all those other lots that kind of help cover the cost of your investment to try to even things out a little bit. And then you might get money from, well, maybe not in this particular government, but in some instances, there could be money available to help offset the costs for you to do your affordable housing. But when your subdivisions are coming in at 1 lot or a couple lots, what is 10% of 2 lots? What is 10% of 3 lots? How would that even work?
Like, you know, just from reading around the state, that sometimes developers will go in and build like a big apartment building and say, I'm gonna have 10% of them are gonna be affordable housing, and then
Right.
they can, then the state law can kind of override the town rules. And they can kind of force it in, and it creates a huge hullabaloo, because then the town goes,
And sometimes they're,
they don't want it.
the towns give them a bonus for different things that they include into their development.
But I mean, it's just,
So-
it's not. They need to be larger projects than what we tend to get here. You know, if you're building a 50 or 60 unit apartment building, or, you know, set of buildings, then it's much easier to make 10% affordable housing than it is if you're building three units.
Well, just not too far from us, just in Johnson, Rhode Island. There was a developer who was proposing 250 unit affordable housing on 31 acres right in the Waterman Heights area in Route 44. And the city and town of Johnston took that land by eminent domain in order to put up a new town hall or a fire station. Now both, they're being sued, the town's being sued by the landowner who lost the land to eminent domain. Because people didn't like 250 unit affordable housing structure going up. I think the affordable housing issue is not gonna go away. And if legislators just say every town has to have X% affordable housing,
Sure, former chair. Stays on the bus.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can see this very well on the screen, but this is from our affordable housing plan. And so see how your percentage is calculated based on the 2010 census, those numbers are the number of housing units you have in your town. So the 2020 census data wasn't available when we did the plan, because it takes a while after you do the census for you to get all the data. But this is what you have in the blue highlight for the types of housing that counts towards the percentage. You had 24 government assisted units, 0 tenant rental assistance, 28 single family CHFA and USDA mortgages, and 0 deed restricted, for a total of 52 units. And the other towns in our region are here. So you asked about Putnam. Putnam is at 12.7%. They also have 0 deed restricted, which I think that's changed since then.
There's nothing to deed restricted at all.
Do you know if those mortgages that qualify if are like a certain price range? Or are they just the qualification of the buyer? Are they generally like a mortgage for up to $250,000 homes? Is it a
It's
range?
more about income. And then I think there's different types of mortgages, but some of them, and the ones that I looked into, I don't know if they all count towards it. But of the ones that are available on the HUD website, some of them are based on your income level. And then they tell you how much money you could get up to for that type of mortgage. And the amount changes based on where you live, like the amount that they would allow.
But what I'm saying is they
in
were,
Woodstock would be different than in Hartford or whatever.
those type of loans would more likely be for like a $250,000 home than a
No,
four.
the amount can go
five.
up to higher. I've seen, I think the amount might be in the 400s.
Can I ask a really basic question here? What are we trying to do with this? Are we trying to sort of anticipate the state putting pressure on us to come up with affordable housing? Or are we trying to address the problem which we identified? Such as affordable housing for we're looking for the ability to allow people to downsize or to buy starter units. In other words, what is our problem here? Are we addressing our problems, or are we trying to make the state happy with their?
The state, as far as I can tell, it's always a moving target.
Yep.
Until they make up their mind and pass a law, we won't know. And I've heard different things, lots of different options, different possibilities. So until they are done and they approve it, we won't know what their requirement is. And sometimes it sounds a little scary. Like last couple of years, I've heard different things from the mandatory of 4 units per acre around the state, which wouldn't work everywhere. Your soils don't even work for that.
So in other words, we're
So-
trying to address the problem that we've identified here.
But I think
And is that affordability, or is it size of units?
it involves a lot of things. There's lack of inventory.
Right.
There's the mismatch of, you have a lot of people who have large homes, and there's nothing wrong with them having a large home, except if it's more home than they actually want, but they don't have another option to move into, then they're taking up a large house, and maybe they would be happy with a smaller house. And then the availability of the large house is now there for someone else to move into.
I mean, it seems to me that the biggest impediment to us moving forward with this is people don't want the quality of the town to change. And so when I look around, I look at Woodstock Meadows, Cornfield Point, and places like that. And I wonder what allowed those places to be developed. And could we find out exactly what circumstances allowed those places to be developed? And can we reproduce the same conditions to allow the same kind of places? Would that take care of the problem?
I have a section in the housing plan on all of the existing multifamilies, so I'm gonna just scroll down to that.
Yep.
If I can find the year they were built. It's probably before zoning, so. that would answer why. So this is,
Nineteen eighty-nine.
this is the, yeah, that's what we're zoning.
So in other words, we have a zoning,
This is the table that tells you the types of housing units that you have as of the date of this document. So you had 116 units in 5 plus unit properties. So 11 properties had a total of 116 units. You had 7 properties with 28 units. They were 4 family on the 7 properties, 4 families each. 9 properties with condos, total of 148 units. 4 properties with 3 family structures with 12 total units. 22 properties with 2 family structures. And then 109 properties with single family house with the accessory apartment. I'm not sure how much of that changed in the last couple of years.
But to put in more condos, is that necessarily affordable housing?
You have to
it's what,
compare it,
Well, we have,
comparatively, it could be more affordable, but I don't know if it's gonna be affordable.
we've had, I think, a lot of zoning rules and regulations have been reactionary. You know, not. No, we just, I mean, something happens and then they change the rule. That happened after development of Dugville Road. All those houses went in with the driveways, and then. You know, so, but I think that's not a good way to zone. Actually, that you could have. Did something need to change? Yes, but I mean, I don't know, I think we're at a point now, when some of that stuff. We need to allow, make it easier for people to put in a multi-family or even apartment building than it is. Billy is saying some of the regulations.
Well, the subdivision regulations were original ones in 1965. Subdivision,
You didn't have zoning until 1982.
1990, yeah, 1990.
Actually, you had zoning for, in like 1960 something, for like 3 months.
Land use or something.
And then
Yeah.
it must have caused such a problem that they got rid of it. But this table here shows you the year of when all of these properties that were mentioned in the previous table were built. So you have condos built in the, mostly, well, all in the 80s. Except, I mean, one of Fairway Circle was built in 93. So that was after zoning, so I'd have to see if I can research to find out if they got a special permit, or maybe if they had the approval prior, and then because they had the approval of some kind, maybe they finished building it. I'd have to look that up, because it's right after zoning was adopted in 92. And then the apartments, they're all over the map of when they were built.
1500. Wow.
1791.
And some
Well,
pretty
but
sizable.
we're not really restricting some developer from coming in and proposing an apartment complex.
Have you seen the multifamily regulations? They're very off-putting. You need 10 acres, massive setbacks. Big separation distances. You have this ridiculous rule about how the structure on this property has to be so far away from the house on the next property, which is not the boundary line. It's from structure to structure, crossing the boundary line.
Well, that being said, it looks like a developer might have purchased this an exit house to turn it into apartments and put up condominiums.
Was it
At least that's what
purchased
it
by- No one.
looks like. The
It's-
for sale
it's
sign.
sold.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the guy who came.
I don't know who,
No.
but do you know who bought it or
I don't, but it's not the same guy that came before us.
for the apartments or for
And
the?
they're actually gonna make apartments. We don't know.
No, the new owner wants to keep it as a retreat type of thing.
Oh, okay.
There's an estate there, estate sale this Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah.
I gotta check it out.
Both of us are pretty busy.
So it seems like the way to look at this is to figure out what's preventing developments like this, and then fix the rules to allow for the town to continue as the town is, the way people like it, but to have it, to write the rules in such a way that it allows them to take away the things that are impeding people.
So when you write it in zoning, amendment, you're supposed to have it be compatible with your P O C D.
Yep.
So we're doing the P O C D, that's where you would put in your recommendation, what you want these changes to be.
Yep.
And they shouldn't be vague. I think, it drives me crazy when I see a recommendation that says, consider blah, 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 because it kind of says you don't really need to do anything, like, put it in there, it looks sort of good, or move on. If you actually want something to happen, you should make a recommendation about what you want to happen. You want the multifamily regulations to be revised, you don't have to come up with every last change in the regulation. But you could make something a little more clear as a recommendation instead of consider revising them. You could come up with a little more detail than that. Like instead of
So I'm not
10
a-
acres and excessive setbacks, you could fix that.
I'm not a developer and I'm an architect. I sort of know what seems like a fix, but I don't really know how to manipulate that.
Well, there's a lot of information that we can spend some time going over. That I was just with the people that I'm working on that workshop with, and there's a lot of they're from the southern part of the southeastern part of the state. But they have information that includes us. So I can send out links and we can read it all and talk about it, and then we can come up with something. And maybe you wanna have a workshop where you invite some designers in to help you figure out what might work here. Look at some, I think before you just cut and paste from another town, you should figure out what you actually want here. Because if you just cut and paste from another town, you could be borrowing garbage. You could be borrowing something that doesn't even work there. But if their town is a tourist town or college town or whatever, it's maybe so different that why would you want to borrow it in the first place?
Well, we discussed about having something about this in the P O C D.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're in the middle of that. And but in order to actually get to the point where we write regulations, we could go over a lot of those other documents and see what information we think applies to this stuff.
Yeah.
But we're making slow progress.
Did talk to, first selectmen's day and that. Advisory, were you guys in that? Yeah. You're on that.
Yeah,
POC.
yeah, we met the first time, but it was basically just introduction at that point. But we are gonna meet the first Thursday of every month.
Okay.
But housing is big and amongst the members, yes.
When is that, when do we have to have that P O C D done, or we got an extension, right?
Yes. I'm not sure how much time he asked for in the extension, but we got more time. The deadline was 6 months.
Yeah. So you guys are meeting, to try to get all the information, dealing with it, so. Then actually try to follow through with what's written down. You know, that was one of the reporters' big beefs with the previous P O C D was that we did it, we put it away and never did anything. That previous P O C D, that was before I was on the board. Sure.
Yeah, me too.
So. I guess that'll be kind of my goal as chair is to get this done and then actually follow up on them. We've tried to get into regulating farm stores or, you know, just kind of getting some, not regulating, but just getting some definitions done for stands and stores. You know, so it's not, you know, you got somebody in your backyard farm selling eggs and, you know, make honey and stuff, and then you got bigger permanent stores selling stuff. I mean, there's some different classifications. So I just, and that's every time we get started on it, something else will come up we had to do. I think we need to get back to doing. Hopefully we can follow through, and that's all in the POC. We get this done, and that's my goal is to start actually doing stuff that's in the POC. And researching housing and getting information, seeing where we can go.
Yeah, what's the definition of affordable housing?
We have a document here, I'm sure I can find it, it's probably in here. I mean, what the state considers to be affordable?
What do we consider?
Well, it's kind of what the state mandated. Thank you.
You know, the million.
I'm looking at that affordable housing, which I think is looking up, and you have the block in here that says the formal affordable housing as defined by the Connecticut state statutes costs less than 30% of the income of a household earning 80% or less of the area median income. Oh, all right. Have it up.
Do we know what the AMI is for Woodstock?
It's in here, and it might have gone up a little bit in the last couple of years, but, I think that's towards the back of it, the end of the document.
So do we think that's achievable here?
I don't know. Not without public money.
We have tables in, you know,
I think if that's
Wow,
on
the
the
other
line,
things that go along
that-
with it,
that-
it's the,
that's worthwhile looking.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry.
just all the other little things that go along with it. I mean, it's like, affordable housing is just the beginning of it. That's the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
What about the transportation, you know?
Yeah.
You don't have affordable housing, you're gonna have public sewer, public water, which is very controllable, the amount is controllable, you know? There's so many little factors that have to go into that, and we don't have that. And it's, can we make affordable housing based on the average income of town Woodstock? Well, that may be a little more doable. That would be if you looked at a town that already had a lot of affordable housing and their average income is lower. Therefore, the affordable housing is gonna have to be more affordable than what it would be in Woodstock. I just think the state's gotta really think this out, because not every jacket fits everybody.
Yeah. I agree, plus we're trying to keep the historic charm of Woodstock. We're putting land in conservation. Where does affordable housing fit in?
I mean, you can't just say, well, we're just gonna fill up South Woodstock. You can't. It's land development.
not that the state actually reads any of these plans. I think they just check off when you send it in. But in all the housing plans that I've written, and I wrote Woodstars, Canterbury's, Conference, I helped with unions. In all of them, I've included about how if you're gonna have those more densely developed parts of the state, you have to have the watershed to support it. So the watershed can't be paved over and developed to the maximum capacity, because then you won't have the watershed, like their rural parts of your state function like the lungs and the liver for your more developed parts of your state.
Oh,
So,
we were
It
just
doesn't mean
looking.
you don't spoke, and you don't have to allow for more attainable housing, but you can't be everything to everyone.
Right.
So if you wanna have farming to have food, and you wanna have watershed, and you wanna have fresh air and that kind of stuff, you have to allow for it somewhere, and the same place that's gonna have the walkable streets and the high density and all that stuff isn't gonna be the same place where you have all your farmland and your fresh air and your watershed and your aquifer protection. You can't be everything to everyone all at the same time.
Right, yes, around Rosen Lake, affordable housing and then.
Yeah.
But the Putnamite process it.
It's true. I mean, we were just watching this gentleman present to us tonight. And he's showing us all these yellow areas marked out for pervious, areas where we can put water back into the water table. Have it shed naturally, and, towns are starting to use pervious pavements and other things to put the water back into the ground. Where do we, that right there, that frozen obstruction, trying some kind of, do an affordable housing area.
If you picture picture a different town, like maybe when you've gone on vacation and you're walking.
What's that?
Picture going on a trip one day in your imaginary life. And you're walking along to like, from your hotel to your dinner at a restaurant or something. And you're walking by high density development.
Mm.
With all those buildings, because it's walkable, it has to be close together, otherwise it's not very walkable. How are they gonna have those yellow shaded areas? Because the buildings and even if they have pervious paving and pervious sidewalks and stuff like that, the buildings aren't pervious. And the roads aren't gonna be ripped up and replaced with pervious materials. Even if they do incorporate low impact development and they have better drainage that doesn't all pipe it all to the river that goes to the ocean, it's still gonna have a lot of impervious surfaces. So we always seem to have competing goals with land use and no one seems to talk to each other. When I started as a planner, all you ever heard about was conservation subdivisions. They were the best thing. No one ever said anything bad about them. That was all you ever heard about. And then you heard about smart roads. That was all you ever heard about. When you heard about those things, you never heard about affordable housing. You never heard about workforce development and workforce housing and the need for jobs. So the pendulum is always swinging.
Hmm.
Now we hear all about affordable housing. Well, now that we're going to talk about affordable housing, does no one care about conservation? We need to find a balance. You can't do all of one and then switch over and do all of the other and then switch over back. It doesn't make any sense.
Assuming we have quite slowly worked away at that because there are significant, since the plans were developed, there's significant more land in town of Woodstock that has been put into PDR, which is making, obviously properties that cannot be developed, so it's not like we can just load farms all up with condo complexes that can't happen. Things have changed.
Wetlands prohibits a lot of our development.
In
with stuff,
wetlands too, so when you start to look at that map of what is actually developed.
That's why you have to be
It's
smart.
gonna
with it.
be
What
quite a
can
long
be
ways
developed
away
has to
from
be done
public
smart or
water.
we're doing everything wet.
And like when we were talking to Stu Morse about the sewers, I wasn't trying to put him on the spot, but it's not like the sewer authority can on their own decide to just expand. The money has to come from somewhere, and then each person who ties in has to pay something. And apparently people are paying when they haven't even connected, which beyond
And
my,
that system has a
Okay.
limit. The fight is just.
right.
You can't just say, well, let's just double what was sent.
Contract, and Putnam has a limit of what their facility can handle, and they probably are not near that because they recently had Comfort connect to them. So they take in Comfort and Woodstock as commercial customers. But they have a limit, and it would be nice if they get a filter to filter out PFAS, because all the stuff that comes out of their plant goes down the river. And we know they must have a lot of PFAS from the ash landfill. Don't get me started in the ash landfill. So.
But it's true, there's a lot of old infrastructure there. I heard Stuart the other day and some of the issues that they've dealt with, they've been trying to deal with for years now. And they're limited with funding too. And then if you do expand, it's probably gonna be forced main, very expensive to do. They did the Bolton Lake area, it's probably about 10 years ago now. It was millions of dollars. Does it work? Yeah, it's great. A lot of roads dug up, a lot of infrastructure change, a lot of pumping stations.
And so-
It's high cost.
When you hear about the affordable housing, which is usually at high densities to make it work. And they're saying, well, it should go where the sewers are, but if you have to expand the sewers in order to have that space to put it in. That's coming at that cost, it's not really that affordable anymore.
No,
So-
they're right, when you add that on to the sewer bill, sewer bill to the people that have the affordable housing. But how big is their sewer bill gonna be if we have to dig up, replace the entire sewer system? So,
That's
to support-
another thing I put in all the housing plans that I read. It's not really doing anybody any favors. You're pretending that you're making this affordable housing, this like magical monopoly house falls out of the sky and you put it somewhere and you sell it to someone for peanuts. But is it that affordable when you have to have a car and there's no job nearby and so in order to have that house, you're driving a long distance commute to your job. You probably have another commute in a different direction to drop your kid off at daycare. And so there are all these other expenses. So it doesn't work everywhere, but it doesn't mean that a town like Woodstock should get off without having to make adjustments in some ways. If you have maybe your greater density, you could allow in South Woodstock, not to the point where you overwhelm your sewers, but you are close to Putnam. Maybe it's not walkable, but it's a short commute to lots of jobs or to the highway where you could get other jobs with not that terrible of a commute. Lots of people certainly make longer commutes now. So I think there's a lot that Woodstock could do that would most likely allow the opportunity for attainable housing. It's probably not gonna get you to the 10%, because I don't think that would work here. But you could do more than you're doing now.
There's gotta be a way of having towns be able to share. You know, that there is support that goes to communities that can do that more. And we have to support that.
Yeah, sort of like a regionalization.
We were forced to support that. The most sensible. Can we make housing that is go to that affordable standard? Maybe not. Can we make reduced cost housing? So, you know, we can take a level of it, but, you know, I just, without infrastructure, I just don't see how we're gonna get to that level. But there's certainly, you know, if the window was left open, that we could support another community, I mean, take another factory and turn it into affordable housing, you know, where they can walk to Dunkin' Donuts, or they could, you know, they could use public transportation. I think that's, you know, I think that's what we need to, communities need to support one another.
So I didn't know if you had anything else you wanted to talk about with the affordable housing plan or with the housing guidelines, or if you wanted to call tonight and then read this some more, and we could talk about it more next time.
And get some more information about the zoning part.
What specifically did you want?
Changing maybe looking how to word it for the P O C. And our zoning regulations to make it easier or more. Just not easier, but just if somebody wants to come in and put in even just a small apartment building, make it possible. I don't think it's even possible right now. That just parcels and land.
I mean, it seems like when I hear from people in town, that there are many people who would like to stay in town to get home. And they can't find a place to downsize. Likewise, people who are young coming out of college would like to live here and can't find a place to start out in. And that would seem to be, for our community, our citizens, be the two major issues that I hear about. And I don't, do we get in trouble with the state if we look at addressing our problem as addressing the size of the units as opposed to affordability, et cetera? Yeah, I would think versus. Yeah, I mean, you know,
I'm not sure if I
Smaller.
understand what you're.
right, well, I mean, they would automatically be affordable. If you have a 2-bedroom apartment, it's gonna be cheaper than a 4-bedroom house. So addressing the needs of our community would be addressing the problem with people who want to downsize and still live here. And people who want to, you know, starting out their lives, their married life, et cetera, want to live here and can't find a place to live. Those are the two main things that I hear all.
Yeah, I mean, I could see things like that, people looking for, dying for art.
Yep.
That they can put. But I mean, that's something that we can look at.
Yep.
And I think that's what we should do. I think we should do what's best for our town.
Right.
Kind of say, this is what we're doing. the state comes in.
I mean, the state wants to give us $1 billion to build a high rise, you know,
Yeah.
down on 171. Fine. That'd be the foundation. See the price. That's instead of the biggest killer right now. Cost of building construction. Yep. It's not same.
So we're gonna look at the housing regulations and everybody can think about the zoning, we have to go back and look through the zoning regs and just think of how we can word it in the P O C D, so it's not just vague. We should look at more of a direction. If you don't have to be, say what we're gonna change, but just in the direction. We put that in the P O C D and we'll,
What you might do is look through the options in the housing guideline, and if you think that certain housing types are a good fit here, you could make a recommendation that regulations be revised to refer that kind of housing. Cause there's lots of housing types in here, and I wrote it so that, it's for the region, we have 16 towns, there's a lot of diversity in neighborhood types. So I wrote it so that each commission could pick and choose what kind would fit into what parts of their town. You don't have to pick one and fit in the whole town. You can pick different types to fit in different parts of your town. Because a lot of our towns have lots of zones. They're not all like this stuff that have so few zones.
do we have any citizens' comments? Communications, I have none. Mr. Young. To adjourn. In favor?
Aye.
Yeah. Good point.
It worked.